You won't believe what people are paying for Japanese cars these days. Millions of dollars for machines once built in the shadows of European giants. What started as a niche collector's market has exploded into a global frenzy, with auctions setting record-breaking prices for vehicles that were once spotted more in video games than on red carpets. Today, we're diving headfirst into the world of rare, legendary, and outrageously expensive Japanese cars. Each one sold for a jaw-dropping sum that'll make your inner car enthusiast scream. These aren't just high-priced toys, they're rolling pieces of history, culture, and pure driving passion. So strap in, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see Japanese engineering forever. So when you think of expensive auction cars, I'm guessing you think of vintage Bugattis or rare Ferraris with racing pedigrees. But in the last 2 decades, Japanese cars, yes, the same brands you associate with dependable daily drivers, have absolutely exploded in value in the collector market. And it's not random. It's not a bubble either. It's the result of a generation of enthusiasts finally seeing the value in what Japan brought to the global car scene. Reliability mixed with cutting-edge tech, obsessive design detail, and just plain coolness. And sometimes rarity that rivals even the most exclusive European brands. Let's start by talking about the car that set the tone for this whole trend, the Lexus LFA Nürburgring Edition. This thing is absolutely bonkers. It's not just a Lexus, it's the Lexus. A V10 screamer that sounds like an F1 car, built with carbon fiber reinforced plastic and tuned to perfection. Lexus only made 500 LFAs in total, and just 64 of those were Nürburgring editions. In 2022, one of these sold at auction for around $1.6 million. Yep, a Lexus, over $1 million. But if you've ever heard that engine note, built in collaboration with Yamaha, you'll understand. It's like a symphony of Japanese precision. The Nürburgring package adds more downforce, a faster gearbox and stiffer suspension, and it's one of those cars where you realize how much effort Japan can put in when they aim to beat the world's best. Toyota reportedly lost money on every LFA they sold. But the legacy? Priceless. Next, let's talk about a car you've probably seen in video games, maybe even on posters, especially if you're a Gran Turismo or Initial D fan. The Nissan Skyline GT-R R34, specifically one owned by the legend himself, Paul Walker. Yep, that car. Now, even standard R34 GTRs fetch insane prices these days, but Paul Walker's personal R34 GTR, the one he had imported and tuned to his own spec, sold for a whopping $1.357 million in 2023. That's not just about performance or rarity, that's culture. That car is tied to a moment in time, to the Fast and Furious franchise, to the iconography of 2000s tuner culture. And when the hammer fell at auction, it was the most expensive R34 GTR ever sold, by a long shot. But let's not pretend that the GTR story started with the R34. It didn't. It goes way back, and the next car proves that. The 1973 Nissan Skyline GTR Kenmarie, also known as the KPG C110, is the rarest GTR of all. They only made 197 of these, and it was the last GTR until the nameplate came back in the late 80s. One of these sold at auction for over $430,000, making it the most expensive classic GTR ever sold. Why? Well, it's not just about being old or rare. It was Japan's first true muscle coupe, born right in the middle of the oil crisis, with styling that was influenced by American cars, but with a straight-six heart and Japanese finesse. The fact that only a handful survive makes it Grail-level stuff. While we're in the 1970s, let's switch gears a bit, because I can't talk about expensive Japanese cars without bowing down to the legend, the Toyota 2000 GT. This was Japan's first supercar. Think of it as Japan's answer to the Jaguar E-Type or the Porsche 911, and trust me, it held its own. With that long, sleek hood, pop-up headlights, and wood-trimmed interior, it's easily one of the most beautiful cars ever made. In 2022, a pristine example sold for over $2.5 million at auction. Yeah, $2.5 million. For a Toyota, But this isn't just any Toyota. It was co-developed with Yamaha, and it was so good that James Bond drove one in You Only, Live Twice. Only 351 were ever built, and they rarely come up for sale. When they do, collectors go absolutely nuts. Another heavy hitter in the collector world is the Mazda 767B. Now this isn't your average RX-7. We're talking about a purebred Le Mans prototype with a rotary engine that screamed through the night at Circuit de la Sarthe. In 2017, a Mazda 767B sold at auction for $1.75 million. That's right, Mazda, over $1 million. But the 767B wasn't just about speed, it was about history. It paved the way for the 787B, the car that famously won Le Mans in 1991, the only Japanese manufacturer and the only rotary engine ever to do so. That win was seismic. It proved that Japanese innovation could dominate even the most traditional European racing institutions. And since we mentioned the RX-7, let's go to another fan favorite, the FD3S. This car has aged like fine wine, lightweight, perfectly balanced, and with that magical 13B rotary engine that just begs to be revved to the moon. In recent years, top-tier FD RXE7s, especially Spirit R models, have breached the $150,000 mark at auction. Now that might seem modest compared to the multi-million-dollar monsters we've talked about, but considering these were once $30,000 cars, that's a 500% increase, and it's only going up. The Spirit R was the ultimate evolution of the FD, and for many people, it's the perfect JDM sports car, raw, light, emotional, and gorgeous. A stock, low-mileage Spirit R is now a blue-chip investment in the JDM world. Now let's talk about something wild, the Honda NSX-R. Not the regular NSX, which already rewrote the supercar rulebook when it debuted in 1990, but the Type R, the rare, stripped-out, track-focused version that never came to the US. Only 483 NSX-Rs were built between 1992 and 1995. One of them sold in 2022 for just over $500,000. That's a $500,000 Honda. But again, context is everything. The NSX-R wasn't just a faster NSX, it was the ultimate expression of driver involvement. It had no power steering, no air conditioning, thinner glass, Recaro seats, and obsessive weight savings. This was the car that Ayrton Senna helped develop, and driving one is like peeking into the soul of what Honda engineering stood for in the 90s. Let's take a quick detour into Rallyland, the Subaru Impreza 22 BSTI. If you know, you know, this was Subaru's 40th anniversary present to itself and a tribute to their WRC dominance. Only 400 of them were ever made, and they were all sold out in 48 hours in Japan. One of these sold at auction in the US for over $312,000. Again, this was a Subaru, not a Ferrari, not a Lambo, but the 22B has that magic mix. Rarity, racing DNA, incredible performance, and undeniable street cred. And you can bet that values are going nowhere but up from here. Another one that stunned everyone was the 2022 sale of a 2021 Toyota Supra, a 91 CF edition that went for $500,000. But here's the twist. It was the very first one off the line, VIN number 001. This was done as a charity auction for the US Boys and Girls Club, and while it's not a collector car in the traditional sense, it shows just how much emotional value can drive prices. The new Supra has a mixed reputation, but there's no denying its cultural impact. And that sale proves that the Japanese car community is strong, passionate, and willing to put money where their hearts are. We can't leave out the R32 GTR, Godzilla's first form. While not as pricey as the R34, clean, low-mileage R32s have been rising fast. But one sale that stands out is the 1990 Nismo R32 GTR, which went for over $250,000. That's double what it was going for just 5 years earlier. Why? Because the Nismo version was basically a homologation special, built so Nissan could enter Group A racing. It had less sound deadening, no ABS, and just 560 were made. It's a proper race car with number plates, and if you ask any true GTR fan, they'll tell you this is where the legend began. One thing that truly separates Japanese cars from their European counterparts is how many of these icons were never meant to be collector's items. They were built to be driven, raced, dailied, and enjoyed. And yet, over the decades, that very philosophy has made them rarer, more sought after, and sometimes even harder to find in original condition. Unlike the Italian exotics, which were coddled in temperature-controlled garages, a lot of JDM legends lived hard lives. Tuned, drifted, tracked, or even crashed. That makes low-mileage, unmolested examples of these cars almost unicorns today. And collectors, they're chasing that rarity like treasure hunters. But it's not just about pristine condition, it's about stories. The car that won a championship, the one owned by a pop culture icon, the limited run that came and went before the West even knew it existed. Each auction sale we've talked about isn't just a transaction, it's the passing of a legend from one era to another. And that emotion? That's what drives prices to the stratosphere. There's also something uniquely emotional about Japanese automotive design, especially from the late 80s to early 2000s. This was the golden era where Japan decided to flex, not with chrome or extravagance, but with engineering mastery. Honda was building engines that could rev past 8,000 RPM with no turbo. Nissan was stuffing their GTRs with advanced AWD systems and twin turbos that could embarrass European rivals twice the price. Toyota was developing the Supra with obsessive reliability, then adding insane performance potential on top. Mazda kept the rotary alive against all odds. Subaru and Mitsubishi turned rally domination into driveway dominance. It was every brand all at once, trying to outdo each other. Not for the luxury market, but for the purest driving experience. That kind of competitive pressure created some of the most memorable, finely balanced sports cars ever made. And today's collectors, many of whom grew up idolizing these cars in magazines, video games, or anime, are finally in a position to buy the dream. And with the recent surge in import laws loosening up, especially the 25-year rule in the US, a flood of previously forbidden JDM legends is now hitting Western shores. With them comes a fresh wave of bidding wars, collector showcases, and museum acquisitions. The result? Prices are skyrocketing. Even cars once considered affordable heroes are now five-figure investments, and rising fast. Combine that with how few untouched examples remain, and you've got the perfect storm for a collector's market that isn't slowing down anytime soon. It's not about flash anymore, it's about feel. Japanese cars deliver something intangible. The joy of a perfect heel-toe downshift, the scream of a naturally aspirated redline, the balance in a tight corner. That sensation, once undervalued, is now at a premium. And those who understand it, they're paying top dollar to relive it. So what do all these cars have in common? They're not just expensive for the sake of it, they earned their prices. Each of them represents a moment in automotive history where Japan changed the game. Whether it was through performance, innovation, pop culture, or sheer driving pleasure, these machines left their mark. And as the years go by, and more of them vanish into private collections or museums, the prices will only rise. We're witnessing the golden age of Japanese car collecting, and honestly, I'm here for it. At the end of the day, these record-breaking auctions aren't just about horsepower or heritage. They're about connection. A connection to a time, a culture, a sound, a feeling that never really left us. Every million-dollar sale represents someone's dream realized, someone's memory honored. Japanese cars have gone from underdogs to undisputed legends, not because they chased luxury, but because they chased souls. And as long as people crave that raw, unfiltered driving experience, the value of these machines will keep climbing. Because you can't really put a price on passion, but sometimes the auction hammer tries. Now, whether you're someone looking to invest in a classic, or just a fan who loves watching these legends live on through videos, auctions, or even pixelated versions in Gran Turismo, one thing is clear. Japanese cars aren't just the underdogs anymore, they're center stage. And deservedly so. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, share with your fellow car lovers, and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below. What's your dream Japanese car? Would you ever spend 7 figures on a Toyota? Or is there a hidden gem out there you think is next in line to break records? Thanks for watching.